Welcome back to another episode of Making Money with Woodworking and Smalls That Sell, a series all about breaking down what's hot and trending in the big box stores and recreating our own low-cost, high-profit versions. So I've had a lot of people ask me why I focus so much on small items. Oftentimes they'll say things like, well, wouldn't you rather build a big, nice, elaborate piece of furniture that you could sell for a ton of money? Well, I've built things like that and I enjoy doing it. But whenever it comes to making money with woodworking, oftentimes those big, elaborate items simply do not have the profit margins that the smaller items have. Another big thing is the final price point. So if I work on a piece of furniture for a week, I put a $500 price tag on it, and it takes me a few weeks to sell, well, that kind of eats away at all of the profit. On the other hand, if I make a small item that, let's say, cost me $5 to make and I can sell it for 40, well, now we're getting into a price point that most everyone can afford. In that same few weeks, you could sell 10, 20, 50, how many ever, the smaller item that has a much higher profit margin. So without going too deep into the numbers and percentages and things like that, let's just think about this very simply. So look at your big box stores. Let's say Walmart. You go in, you do your shopping, all of that, and what is at the checkout? It's always lined with low-cost items. These are for impulse buys. They assume that everyone has that expendable income. And I can guarantee that they make more profit on those items than the big expensive ones. Okay, so that's enough about all that. Are you ready to learn how to make some low-cost, high-profit items of your own? Well, let's dive into this first one. All right, so this first one, I actually saw several different versions of this on several different sites, and that's telling me that they are moving. So check these out. This is a primitive bread box. All right, so bread boxes were actually really popular 70s, 80s, back in that ugly woodworking time. No offense to anyone. I've said it before, I'm not a big fan of the 80s, even though the 80s style is coming back in. But instead of making one of these bread boxes out of oak with like a duck routed in the front, let's stick with something like this. Primitive has always been popular and probably always will be. Plus, these things are super cool. So I'm calling this more of a primitive shaker style. Everything uses pretty common cuts and material, and they're selling for $105 each. And whenever I first saw this price tag, I'm like, that's not bad at all. I mean, this thing is super cool. These boxes are coming back in the style, so it's a hot item. I think that you could easily sell these things for 75, 80 bucks. But I've never made one before, so that may actually change my mind. But just to show you how easy something like this would be to make, let's go ahead and make one. So as far as the material goes for making this bread box, I needed something that was at least 11 inches wide. So you can either use 1x12 material for this, or I just used a leftover piece of shelving board to cut my parts. But regardless of what you decide to use for your parts, this is essentially what all the parts look like after they're cut. And just to save a little time, I went ahead and stained all of my parts dark. Keep in mind, this isn't going to be my final color. I'm going to pull out some different distressing techniques once I get this thing built. If you're following along in building this, I'll tell you the sizes of all of these different parts as we go. So I'm going to start off with my two sideboards. These are 8 inches by 11 inches. Now I'm going to make a mark at 4 inches from the left-hand side and then 2 inches up from the right-hand bottom. And then by connecting those two marks, it's going to give me the overall shape of this box. Now we'll just head over to the miter saw and cut this out. And an even easier way that you can get this cut is simply measure over 4.5 inches from the top, set your miter saw to 23.5 degrees, and make your cut. Then we'll just repeat this for our second side. So there's a couple of parts that I'll need to rip the edge down to 23.5 degrees so that it will sit right on our 23.5 degree sides. And that's going to be our 8 inch by 16.5 inch door and our 2.5 inch by 16.5 inch front top. Now with my parts trimmed, I'm going to go ahead and stain all of these fresh cut edges. And if you're wondering about this little staining device that I always use, it's a stain pad by Makers. I've used these things for years for any staining that I do and recommend them to anyone. If you have never used one and you're curious, I'll throw a link in the description. Now that that's done, let's start putting all of these parts together. I'm going to start off by attaching my two sides to the back. And for our back, I'll be using an 11 by 15 board. Put a little wood glue down each edge and lock it together using crown staples. You can also use brad nails for this. Bottom board will be 7.25 by 15 and will sit in between the back board and the two sides. And as always, I'm showing you step by step on how to build this, but if you're a plans in the hand type of person, head over to my website. I'll throw a link in the description. Now that we have our bottom board attached, next I'll install a 2 inch by 16.5 bottom front board. And you'll notice that since I used a different board for a couple of these parts, they're a little different colors. But again, that's not going to matter by the time I get done. So now with our front bottom on, let's install our 2.5 inch by 16.5 inch front top with the angle that we ripped down facing up and flush with the top of our sides. And actually, we're getting close to being done. Now I'll install my 5.25 by 17.5 inch top, making sure to leave a 1/2 inch of overhang on each side in the front. And then the last thing to attach would be our door with our angle facing down. But I'm going to hold off on actually attaching this door until I finish this up. And to do that, I'm going to distress this black. But before I get too crazy with some black paint, I'm going to use one of the distressing techniques that I showed you in my recent distressing video. And that's petroleum jelly and a paintbrush. Yeah, this seems a little odd, but this is going to give us a worn, chipped paint look. Now that our bread box is all lubed up, I'm going to head outside and coat this with paint. Once our black paint dries, let's wipe off this Vaseline and see what kind of a look we have. Now that is an authentic chipped paint look. Now that we have the chipped paint look down, let's go ahead and distress this up a little bit and do some sanding. So I like to put dents and scrapes and things before I sand it. That way that the paint stays in any depressed wood. Essentially, you want to make this thing that has survived households full of kids for years and years. Now that I've got a little stress out of my system, I'm going to hit this thing with a palm sander and some fine grit paper. Not only will this add to the distressing, but it's going to knock off any shine left in the paint. Now we're almost ready to attach our door, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and install a knob. And to help line this up, I'm going to drill a hole towards the top center of my door. And for the knob itself, I've just taken a piece of 3/4 scrap and just kind of sanded this down to a knob. And then to attach the knob, I'll install a screw through the inside of the door. Now with that installed, let's install the hinges. Now they didn't use regular hinges way back when, so I'm just going to use some pieces of leather. You can actually pick this up the same place that I did on Amazon. They sell little bags of scrap leather that comes in super handy. And really you can use any type of fastener that you'd like. I have some small brass tacks that I'm going to use for mine. Okay, so I'm super pumped with the way that this thing is turning out. After all, I've never made one of these before. One last thing that I'm going to do is to put a little door keeper here. Just a little swivel, kind of holds the door. I just made this out of another piece of that 3/4 inch scrap. Just sanded it down to kind of the shape that I wanted. Now that's all that I have to do is get it installed. And for my little door keeper, I'm going to pre-drill and countersink through the keeper and into my box. Just make sure that whatever screw that you decide to use isn't shiny. And there we go. And just like that, we have turned a piece of scrap shelf board into a bread box. These things are super cool, and I can't wait to see what you come up with your twist. Okay, so we just got done making our primitive bread box, and I think that it would need something to match on our counters. Well, the old PB thought of that first, and they're selling these. This is a 3-bin caddy made the exact same way that the bread box was made, and they're getting 110 bucks a piece out of these things. Again, not a terrible price. And the super cool thing about this is, like we've discussed before, you have 2 different products that you can buy individually, but people will usually buy the set so that they match. So I'm picturing maybe your bread box in a little corner somewhere, and then instead of like canisters for flour, sugar, and all that, something like this. But even if you do not want this for a kitchen, think about some other things that it could be used for. This would look great outside, or maybe just decoration inside of a house. But regardless of the way that you decide to market this thing, let's go ahead and break this thing down so you can build it. So this box is 7 inches tall, 20 inches long, and 9 inches deep. So to make this, the easiest thing to do would be to start with your 2 ends and your 2 middle dividers. For the most part, those dividers will be the only thing that's not basic square cuts, except for the lids, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. So essentially, we'll start with these dividers and then build everything out around it. So based on these dimensions, I went ahead and cut a sample divider. And I cut this out of a 5.5 inch piece of wood that is 7.5 inches long. You'll measure down 3.25 inches from the edge to start your cut. And that's going to leave the front of this board at 1.25 inches. Now just use this first one that you cut as a template, trace this out, and cut 3 more. So now that we have our ends and our dividers, let's just start building out from there. So the first thing that I would do is to attach all 4 of these pieces together using the front and the back. So for our front, since this is 1.25 inches, let's use 1.25 inch board that's 20 inches long. I would attach one of these boards on each end, and then our 2 other dividers equally spaced. Once I had those in, I will go ahead and attach our back board. That's going to be a 5.5 by 20 inch board. Okay, so now at this point we have our front, we have our back, and everything is fastened together. Now let's go ahead and add our bottom board. Since we have a 3/4 board on the front, a 3/4 board on the back, and we know that our dividers are 7.5 inches wide, we'll need a bottom that is 9 inches wide by 20 inches long. Now the easiest way to fasten this would just be to flip it over and install brad nails or screws. So now that we have our front, back, bottoms, and sides on, let's go ahead and move on to our top. We'll need a board to cover this. So since this is 3.25 inch wide, we'll need a 4-inch board that's 20 inches long. We'll attach this to our top, and then the only thing left is our doors. Now this is where the extra angle is going to come in, but let's make it super simple and cut the angles on all 3 of these doors at once. So I want this door or lid to actually sit on top of this 45 and overhang this front board, let's say by 1/2 inch. Since this 45 is 6 inches long, our lid board will need to be 6.5 inches long by 20. So you may be saying, okay, why is it 20 inches long when these are 3 different lids? Well, if we keep it together while we're cutting all of these different sizes, it's going to cut down on the amount of cuts that you have to make. So now we have our lid board that will overhang in the front, but what do we do where it connects to our top board? If you just butt it up against this top board, it's going to leave a funky looking little gap there. So to make this match up nicely, set your table saw to 45 degrees and rip a 45-degree angle on the edge of your lid board. Once you have that cut, head over to your table saw and cut it into 3 different lids. And then you could distress it up like we did for the bread box and add your little leather straps. And there you go. I know I just spit off a lot of different measurements and things like that, but the rest is just tracing this out and duplicating and adding things to it. It's honestly a piece of cake. Okay, so now we have a couple of different primitive looking pieces. So let's keep up with this rustic theme for our next one. That's going to be this primitive serving tray. Whenever I ran across this and saw that it was trending, I thought that it would fit perfect with our last 2. And the crazy thing is they're wanting $200 for this thing. Yeah, let me tell you how they built it. Okay, so if you look at this thing, it's pretty simple to make. There's a couple of different ways that you can make this, a couple of different styles. Honestly, what would give it the best look is if you use some reclaimed lumber. Whenever I say reclaimed lumber, it can literally be reclaimed from anything, just used before. This material is 1.5 inches thick, and that's kind of what makes it unique. It's 12 inches wide by 24 inches long, and obviously you could just use a 2x12 to dress that up really nice. And then you would just cut the ends of these things. I'll just call them breadboards because it's essentially the look that they're going for. You know, like an old rustic table with a breadboard. But we would just cut that material going the opposite direction, giving it that breadboard look. Then to attach those ends to your board, you could use biscuits, dominoes, dowels, or even pocket hole screws. Now again, the key for this thing would be the distressing. You have to make this look old. And if you don't think that you can get your distressing to look like this, I'd use some reclaimed 2x4 pallet wood material and then just join the boards on their edge. You could just glue these up or use any of the joinery that I just mentioned. That would give it that authentic rustic look while making a super cool primitive serving tray. We're on a roll with this rustic decor, so let's add one more build to this theme. So check out these rustic boxes that the old PB is getting $180 out of a set of 3. So this is a basic box build where everything is made with butt joints and honestly made to look very simply built and primitive. So this type of a look is purposely made with no fancy joinery because way back then if they found a need for a box, they were like, let's just make a box and get back to work. Very simply built to serve one purpose. But over time, people have recognized the beauty and simplicity and have worked that into their home decor. So the main thing that you're going to notice about this box is the distressing, just like before. So yes, you can spend some time with these and actually replicate this look. Honestly, you don't have to do much replicating if you have pallet wood. So most pallets were rough cut anyways, so you're going to have bandsaw marks and all these color variations. The only difference is the bandsaw marks will not be black and prominent like these. But to easily get that look, just stain your material dark, let that dry, and just sand some of that top coat off, leaving your highlighted bandsaw marks. And since usually a bandsaw mark is caused by an offset tooth cutting a little deeper, that stain is going to set up nicely in each one of those grooves, leaving you with this look. And then once you have that, Just build some simple boxes. Leave exposed butt joints around the edge, and instead of making a top for this and a bottom for this, I would just make the entire thing and then cut the lid off afterwards on the bandsaw. And then as far as hinges for this thing, honestly, I would not spend the money on actual hinges. Just take a little idea from some of the other things that we've built in this video. Use some leather straps for these hinges and really set these things apart. Now, if you get some sets of these made, paired up with all of these other primitive things that we've made, price each one of these things out individually, but knock off some money if they buy an entire set. Well, there you go. Instead of making one sale, essentially you've made 3 or 4. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed today's video and were able to take something away from this to apply to your build process. So now that you have some good ideas kind of rolling around in your head, you know exactly what time it is. Time to get up, get out, get your build on. Till next time, we'll see you. Imagine taking a pile of wood and turning it into something amazing. Now, imagine doing that without years of frustration. You do not need a fancy workshop, expensive tools, or years of experience. With Woodworking Kickstart, you'll build confidence and real skills in no time. So you can spend years making mistakes and learning the hard way like I did, or you can start building with confidence today. So join me in Woodworking Kickstart and let's get your journey started.